Prince Louis had always been the bright spark of the modern royal household, the little boy whose laughter could soften even the most heavily guarded moments within the palace walls. For years, his playful nature provided balance to the formality around him. A reminder that even within the oldest living monarchy, childhood innocence still thrived. His curiosity was endless, his energy contagious, and his presence often brought unexpected warmth to otherwise stiff ceremonial appearances. He was the child who would run ahead, arms open, eager to greet the world with unfiltered affection. A boy who never quite understood boundaries, social distancing included, and simply wanted to embrace everything and everyone, especially babies smaller than himself. He was, to the family and to the public, pure joy in its most unpolished form. But over time, something began to change, almost imperceptibly at first. A dimming of the spark, a shift in energy, a silence where laughter had once lived. Those closest to him felt the difference before they could describe it. His siblings noticed his quietness during playtime. William observed his reluctance to join conversations, and Catherine sensed the subtle heaviness behind his soft, wandering eyes. What began as small moments of withdrawal slowly expanded into a pattern too worrying to ignore. His once vibrant personality dulled, his adventurous chatter faded into gentle murmurs, and the little boy who once ran toward life began stepping away from it. Prince William initially reassured himself that it was simply a phase, the sort of emotional passing cloud that visits most children. But King Charles, with decades of experience navigating the emotional complexities of royal life, detected a deeper undercurrent. It was the kind of quiet distress that does not shout for help, but trembles beneath it. Something in Louis's posture, in his absence of sparkle, told the king that this was not the mischief of childhood settling. It was something heavier, something quietly unfolding. The truth came sharply into focus one morning when Louis collapsed without warning. The palace, accustomed to managing crises behind tightly closed doors, was thrown into immediate alarm. Doctors were brought in, examinations were conducted, and both William and Charles waited in tense silence as experts tried to make sense of the child's sudden decline. When the report finally arrived, the atmosphere in the room turned somber. It wasn't a medical emergency in the traditional sense. It wasn't an illness of the body that had stolen Louis's strength. It was something far more delicate, far more fragile, and far more heartbreaking. Hours later, the palace released an announcement that stunned the nation. It did not come wrapped in polished royal phrasing. Instead, it was direct, startlingly honest, and unmistakably burdened by emotion. King Charles and Prince William stepped forward together, offering the most human statement the royal household had issued in years. They revealed, in careful yet sorrowful detail, that Prince Louis had been enduring a deep emotional struggle, one far more serious than the whispers that had circulated online in recent weeks. His withdrawal, his sudden quietness, his loss of appetite, and even that frightening moment of collapse were not isolated incidents. They were the pieces of a silent battle he had been fighting alone. The statement explained that Louis's heart, his emotional heart, had weakened under the weight of confusion and fear. His sense of security, once unshakable, had become fragile. His confidence, once overflowing, had quietly drained away. Prince William, speaking with a tone that trembled between composure and pain, shared that he had observed the shift for months and had prayed it would resolve naturally. But the collapse shattered that hope, leaving no choice but to confront the truth. As the nation listened, the explanation unfolded with a devastating simplicity. The emotional strain had begun during Catherine's illness, a period filled with uncertainty and whispered concerns. The palace had become a place of hushed conversations, shifting routines, and urgent private meetings. Adults attempted to shield the children, but the walls of a home, even a royal one, cannot entirely mute fear. Louis, the youngest and most sensitive, absorbed fragments of seriousness without fully understanding their context. Snatches of hushed dialogue about medical treatments, altered schedules, the quiet tension of adults speaking in guarded tones. He sensed the fear, but not the facts. To his young mind, every change felt like a warning. Unbeknownst to anyone, Louis also heard murmurs from outside sources. Speculation circulating through media, staff, and the digital world about the possibility of a new royal baby. Adults dismissed these rumors without a second thought. But for Louis, who was already trying to make sense of his mother's sudden frailty and the emotional shift around him, the whispers felt like confirmation of something far more terrifying. In his mind, the pieces formed a single heartbreaking conclusion. Mummy is unwell because someone new is coming. Someone who will take my place. Someone who will replace me. The fear took root quietly. He didn't voice it. He didn't know how. So instead, he carried it with him, letting it settle into the corners of his heart. Every time Catherine visited the hospital, every time he saw William's worried expression, every time adults paused their conversations the moment he entered the room, the fear grew. His joy receded. His appetite waned. His laughter slowly vanished. And all the while, he believed, with the tender certainty of a child, that he was no longer needed, that he was being quietly moved aside. When William learned the truth, revealed only after weeks of gentle patience and finally a moment of tearful vulnerability from Lewis, it shattered him. For months, he had been searching for a logical explanation, never realizing that the answer was something so heartbreakingly simple. Lewis hadn't needed medical intervention. He had needed reassurance. He had needed to be held tightly, reminded of his irreplaceable place in the family, told clearly and openly that no one, not now, not ever, would come before him. In their joint message, King Charles expressed a rare depth of emotion, acknowledging that the family had reached a point where protecting Lewis meant speaking openly for the first time. The public, he said, needed to understand that even in a family surrounded by tradition, legacy, and duty, the internal storms can be deeply human. A child can still feel lost. A child can still feel afraid. A child can still misinterpret the chaos around him as a sign of being unloved. The palace confirmed that Lewis is now receiving focused emotional support, something tailored to help him rebuild his confidence, his sense of belonging, and the joyful spirit that had once defined him. The family has also made changes within the household, ensuring that communication around the children remains gentle, intentional, and age-appropriate. They have begun new routines that center stability, warmth, and emotional clarity. Yet, the public is left with a haunting question. How could such a profound fear grow unnoticed in a family constantly surrounded by support? Experts suggest that sensitivity, particularly in children as empathetic as Lewis, often hides beneath smiles, quietness, or compliance. Sometimes, the children who seem the easiest, the gentlest, the most affectionate are the ones who carry the deepest, silent burdens. The monarchy now finds itself in an unfamiliar place, facing a wave of sympathy not for its duty, but for its humanity. And across the nation, parents quietly relate to the story of a child who misunderstood the world around him and withdrew into fear. A fear born not from neglect, but from love. Love so deep that the thought of losing it became unbearable. As King Charles and Prince William prepare to release further details in the coming days, one truth stands firm. Prince Louis was never replaced. He was never pushed aside. He was simply a little boy navigating shadows he did not know how to name. And now, surrounded by support, he is slowly finding his way back to the light.